Good morning, good morning, good morning, peace family. It's your brother Marc Lamont Hill here on the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel. I'm going to take just a second to let y'all come into the room because we got a few things we got to talk about in a short amount of time. Hit the like button if you can hear me good. Also, type in your location. Let me know where you're watching from, where you're calling in from, where you're looking from. It's the morning here on the East Coast of the United States, so I know I got a lot of folk here. I also got a lot of folk in the Middle East. I got a lot of folk on the continent of Africa. We got some folk in Latin America chiming in. So I'm glad to see and hear all of y'all. It's a wonderful blessing to have you here. A lot been going on the channel. Yesterday, we had a great conversation with Dr. Norman Finkelstein. All parts of that interview will be up. You can check that out. Of course, there's the 5 myths about Israel-Palestine that I want y'all to check out. Yesterday, we also talked about T.I. and Tiny and the sexual allegations that came out and what that means for the big picture of how we think about survivors and victimhood and the law and how the law can be reshaped. All kinds of stuff on the channel that I want y'all to check out. Again, I see people coming in from South Africa. Rachel Koboza coming in from South Africa. Erica Sanudo from Mexico. We got Amin Ganucci from Amsterdam. Omega from Atlanta. Main Rajiv from Harlem. Holly from Massachusetts. Amal Ashruf from New Jersey. So much love, so many people. We're going to get right into it, though, because like I said, we don't have a lot of time. Members of the New Jersey Muslim community and really the global Muslim community are devastated right now. On Wednesday morning, Wednesday, January the 3rd, Imam Hassan Sharif was murdered outside of his mosque in Newark, New Jersey. The mosque is on South Orange Avenue and Camden Street in Newark, and it happened after morning prayers, after Fajr, at 6:15 a.m. We don't have a lot of information right now, and we're frankly devastated. He was shot, and people thought that he might be okay. People were making dua, people were praying, hoping that he would come through and recover, but unfortunately, he passed away. For people who know Hassan Sharif, first of all, because I want to talk about the person before I talk about what this could mean and why this may have happened. I didn't know Hassan Sharif very well. I've met him. I had to look and see. We've actually met and engaged a few times in Newark. He was a good brother. And you know, when people say somebody's a good brother in the Black community, that means something. That ain't empty talk. That's not empty rhetoric. He was a good brother. Hassan Sharif was involved in the community. He supported the community. He strengthened the community. You know, I'm not a law enforcement person, but he worked with the public safety department for safe surrender. In other words, if somebody was a fugitive, he would say, look, I don't want you to get shot up by the police. I don't want them kicking in your grandmama door. Let me help you surrender after you've done harm in the community so that your family doesn't experience greater harm and so that you don't experience greater harm. Forget we can debate about police and prisons and that stuff later. You know, I think that's its own conversation. But right now, the conversation is, why was our beloved brother killed? And what message does that send to Muslims in the United States, in New Jersey, and specifically in Newark? Now, we are in a very volatile time. We're in a very volatile moment. And so I don't want to add to the violence or to the tension or to the fear through a lot of speculation. But I think it's reasonable to say that if the pastor of a church were murdered or the rabbi of a synagogue were murdered, we would want to know if it was a hate crime. We would want to know if there was any reason behind the murder that was connected to his identity as a religious leader or his religious faith. And I think we have to ask those same questions about Imam Sharif. I don't know why he was killed, but I know we're at a moment where Muslims are under attack. I know we're at a moment where in Providence, some young Muslim, they were Palestinian, but young Muslim Palestinian students were killed. I know we're in a moment where a Palestinian boy was killed in Illinois and being identified as Palestinian. Unfortunately, there's no complexity to Palestinian identity in the minds of the West. And so everybody's Palestinian must be Muslim, and Muslims are dangerous, right? Just like Al-Qaeda is dangerous, just like ISIS is dangerous. They decide that Muslims are dangerous. And so if someone were trying to commit a hate crime against Muslims writ large because they want to punish Turkish folk or Egyptian folk or Palestinian folk or Jordanian folk, then killing an imam could be a way to go. There are people who want to punish Black Muslims in particular. There is a hatred and a resentment for Black Muslims in particular that sometimes comes up. So I want to question why he was killed. I want to ask those dangerous questions, those tough questions. I don't know the answer. Again, more investigation needs to happen, but it's important to say that more investigation needs to happen. Now, the state seems to be speaking up because he was such a beloved person. Governor Phil Murphy said, if there's any evidence that this was anything broadly speaking, a hate crime, Islamophobia, anything in that lane, it is completely reprehensible, unacceptable in the state of New Jersey, and we will take whatever actions we need to take. But again, that's assuming it's the case. I do not have confirmation that it is the case, but I will say this. We pray for the imam and his family, certainly, fervently. And Cory Booker, the senator of New Jersey, said, I am heartbroken by the shooting death of Imam Hassan Sharif. I am closely following updates as Newark and county police investigate, and I'm hopeful justice will be served swiftly. My heart is with the members of Masjid Muhammad and the entire New Jersey Muslim community. And the Essex County prosecutor, Theodore Stevens, said, the Essex County Prosecutor's Office is working with the Newark Police Department and other agencies to identify the person or persons responsible for this violent act. At a time when biased crimes against members of the Muslim community are on the rise, we know this act of gun violence may heighten concerns. And of course, CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations, is asking for information, and they put out a $25,000 reward for anybody with information on what happened that leads to a conviction or an arrest and conviction. This is such an awful moment in this country for so many reasons. But to know that Muslims are more vulnerable, that Muslims are more hated, is heartbreaking. And again, this might not be a hate crime. There's other things that this could be. But the fact that people even think that it could be a hate crime. I mean, who kills an imam at 6:15 in the morning in front of the masjid? But we got to add another piece to this, y'all, because I got to be honest with y'all. This is Newark. And Newark has a very complicated and messy and fraught history. And Masjid Muhammad, the masjid that he was imam of, was formerly Mosque number 25. I need to be very clear about that for those that don't know the history of Islam in the United States or the history of Muslims in New Jersey, both of which are important. And there are books on this. There are films on this. I would recommend watching Who Killed Malcolm X by my dear brother, Abdurrahman Muhammad. It's on Netflix. It's an incredible series. But Mosque number 25, now known as Masjid Muhammad, New York, but Mosque number 25 was a Nation of Islam mosque that was overseen by different people, James 3X, Louis X, now known as Minister Louis Farrakhan, James 3X, James Russell McGregor. This mosque was opened in 1958. And it was a intense mosque. It was a zealous mosque. It, in many ways, had the most committed worshipers, the most committed laborers is the word I was looking for, of any mosque in the country. And over the years, my God, the mosque has had an upheaval. It's had different aqidas, different beliefs. It's had different leadership. But in all those moments, the wounds are still there, right? The wounds are still there. As I said, the mosque at one point was run by James McGregor, James 3X, James Shabazz, who himself was murdered in his own driveway in 1973, September of 1973. There is a history of violence in Newark and tensions between the Hanafi and the Sunni and the Nation of Islam and all these different groups, between the Black nationalists and the Hanafi, between, leadership models, leadership beefs. All of this stuff is part of the mix of Islam in New Jersey. And so when the Imam, the leader of the mosque in New Jersey, is murdered, it's hard not to wonder if it's not linked to some of those old wounds. Let me be clear about what I'm not saying. I'm not blaming old Sunni Muslims. I'm not blaming the Nation of Islam. I'm not blaming Hanafi Muslims. I'm not blaming Black nationalists, non-Muslims. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm saying that there are old wounds and old tensions and old beefs. And because people are quiet, doesn't necessarily mean that they're not feeling and experiencing and negotiating those beefs. Every shut-eye ain't sleep, and every goodbye ain't gone, as they say in the South. That's all I'm saying. So in the meantime, I don't want us to speculate, but I want us to be eyes wide open that this could absolutely be a hate crime. This could absolutely be an act of violence prompted by people being Muslim. This could be old wounds. It could just be a random crime, but it doesn't smell like a random crime to me. It doesn't smell like a random robbery to me. And so we're going to keep watching. We're going to keep paying attention. And inshallah, we'll find out. What happened. But I don't know. But we're going to find out. And everybody must be committed. The same way if any other major religious leader were killed, we would find out. We would investigate. We got to investigate here too. All right. All right. Let's move on to another story that I think is incredibly important. That is Turkey. Turkey has now officially backed South Africa in the ICJ genocide case. Okay, I just want to be very clear. Last week, Israel said that, I'm sorry, let me do that again. Last week, South Africa filed papers in International Court of Justice against Israel for the crime of genocide. They broke down why Israel had committed genocide in Gaza. They explained to the International Court of Justice at The Hague last Friday, right, what was going on. And Israel, of course, said, this is a blood libel. This is anti-Semitic. This is BS. We didn't do anything wrong. We have been careful not to harm Palestinians unnecessarily, which we know is not true. Israel's military operation in Gaza has been the most imprecise in modern history when it comes to avoiding the killing of civilians. So we know it's not true. 8,000 children, more than 8,000 children have been killed. More than 20,000 Palestinians have been killed. It is an act of genocide. People dying in and of itself doesn't make it genocide, but genocidal intention makes it genocide. Conspiracy to commit genocide makes it genocide. Doing acts to reduce the population in whole or in part because of their race, their ethnicity, their national identity is genocide. And finally, South Africa stood up to do the right thing. And it's important that South Africa did it because of their own history. And also because Israel often points to South Africa and says, look, we're not an apartheid state. They were an apartheid state. They know apartheid. We were, and people like Alan Dershowitz and others say, we marched with Mandela to end apartheid in South Africa, to end genocide in South Africa. And we're nothing like South Africa. So when South Africa stands up and says, you know what, y'all look real familiar. Y'all seem a whole lot like we were. That means something. That does something. Not to mention, they broke down piece by piece by piece by piece how Israeli leaders, Israeli military leaders, political leaders, civic leaders have voiced things that are consistent with the case for genocide. Not to mention what's actually happened on the ground, which is genocide. So today, or yesterday, I should say, Turkey, their foreign ministry said they agree. They said, and to be specific, it is expected that within the framework of this application, the ICJ will decide on provisional measures involving those to stop Israel's attacks on Gaza, right? This application, again, sent to the International Court of Justice by South Africa, is now being amplified by Turkey. But here's why it's important. Here's why it's important. It's important for lots of reasons. But the most important reason, I would say, is that now you have multiple nations. Because once you have one nation say it, the floodgates can open. But from Friday until today, from last week until this week, there were no floodgates. No other nations were saying anything. Some people said, we agree on the low. Some people through unattributed sources said, oh yeah, this is the right thing to do. But so many people have been silent. Now, let me be clear. Turkey is not a friend of the Palestinian people, or Erdogan is not a friend of the Palestinian people, to be more specific. Let me not say Turkey's not a friend of the Palestinian people, because nations aren't represented in practice sometimes by their leaders. You know, people might feel one way, the leader might feel something else. But Erdogan may criticize Israel, but he's totally down to have trade relations with Israel, to support Israel, to normalize Israel. So in practice, there's lots of contradictions here, but them speaking up and speaking out right now, Turkey, is an opportunity to say, look, it's not just South Africa, it's not just African nations, which often get ignored. Now we have Arab/European nations. I know they're not literally Arab, but you get my point, right? They're framed in that way. So Muslim nations, let me be more specific. Muslim nations are agreeing. And now maybe if Turkey's doing it and South Africa's doing it, now maybe we can get some Europe in there. We can get some Latin America in there. And as the global consensus grows, that won't make Israel act differently per se, but what it might do is create a context. It might create a context where some different kind of action takes place. So this is important. And again, we have to be, and I love this comment. I love this comment. Erdogan is using the Palestinian card to deflect from his domestic issues. I don't disagree. I don't disagree at all. This is a cynical move by Erdogan, but at the same time, it's still good for Palestine. It's still good for justice. It's still always important to speak up and speak out when something bad is happening. So I am down with that. All right, y'all, before I go, one last quick thing. This man attacked a judge, okay? And I need y'all to see this for a few reasons, right? In Nevada court yesterday, a man was being sentenced for a battery charge. And during that sentencing, he asked the judge for leniency. The judge said effectively no. And as the judge was giving her reasons why and beginning to issue the sentence, my man went nuts. Take a look.
Discount that history. In accordance with the laws of the state of Nevada, this court.
Okay, everyone, the time is 6:42. Stop it.
That was wild. That was wild. So on the internet, some people are saying, well, the judge was smug, the judge was dismissive, the judge was smiling when she issued the sentence, and therefore she deserved what she got. Stop, y'all. Knock it off. Let's be honest here. The judge may have been smug. The judge may have been smirking. I didn't see that in her face. What I saw in the judge's face was just like, no, you got a long record of violence, and I can't justify giving you another sentence of what do you call it? Of leniency. And again, I'm not justifying incarcerating people. I'm an abolitionist. I'm not justifying any of that. I'm simply saying that in this specific case, what was at stake here was not what some people are saying is at stake. Let me put it differently. Dude was asking for leniency from the judge. The judge says no, because I still think you're violent and you're capable of more violence. This is this is an assault charge he was facing. And he responds by rushing the judge, jumping over the bench and attempting to beat the hell out of her. And instead, they beat the hell out of him. A few observations. Observation number one, no matter what the judge did, it did not justify that man's actions. And it certainly ain't going to help his case. Whatever sentence he was going to get, they're going to triple it. They're going to roof him now. So it wasn't tactically wise either. Number two, when they beat him, it looked excessive. It looked like they had subdued him and they were still beating him. So he should be suing the state also for attack. Again, just because you subdue somebody, just because somebody does harm doesn't mean you can just beat the hell out of him at will. He's not a piñata. So that man also didn't deserve the beatdown that he got. But still, let's not defend the indefensible. There's no way to justify what he did, even if she did smirk. You don't rush and attack somebody. You don't put your hands on somebody because they smirked at you. That's not okay. But we also have to recognize that sometimes judges forget that human beings are human beings. And they start giving out years, and they start giving out sentences, and they start throwing up crazy numbers as if people aren't humans. They talk to them like they're not humans. They sentence them as if they're animals. They disrespect them when it's unnecessary. I've seen it in court a million times. So maybe this will sober up some judges to say, look, we got to make some different choices ourselves. Now, again, I'm not justifying the violence. The violence is indefensible. It is disgusting. No one should be justifying that. And we sound stupid trying to justify what that man did. Let's hold space for multiple truths at the same time. What dude did was wrong. Courts need to treat people better. And all of this is crazy. We need a new system that doesn't force us into these positions, because none of it works out well. That man needs mental health support. That man needs somebody to help him deal with his anger. Putting him in a cage for the next year or two, or now maybe 10 or 20, ain't gonna fix that either. So let's come up with some real solutions, some abolitionist solutions. All right, y'all, gotta go. But thank you for watching. Please hit that like button. Please hit the subscribe button. If you're rocking with what I'm rocking with, hit that subscribe button, family. And of course, hit the join button if you want to be part of the MLH team and become part of the official channel. Hit the join button. Otherwise, just hit subscribe and keep watching the great content. Hit that little bell so you know when stuff is coming up, when stuff is happening. And of course, hit the like button because it lets the algorithms know that you're watching and you like what you're seeing. And of course, lastly, we love if you want to support the platform by using our Cash App. Hit the MLH TV Cash App and drop it right in. It allows us to expand the platform, to grow more opportunities for more voices like Mumia Abu-Jamal, who now has the Classroom in the Cell podcast right here on the channel. Check out all of our great content, and I will see you later. Peace.